Migrations are a convenient way to alter your database as it progresses. I want you to think of migrations as a way of having different versions of your database to accomplish tasks at different points in time. As your program grows, so as your database, or your database may change to have different fields. Right here, I have a simple Rails project, and we're going to start by creating models and showing how that creates migrations in Rails. I'm going to start by running Rails generate. I could also simply do G for generate. Then I'm going to do model, and we're going to make a product. So I'm going to make a database table called product. It's going to have a name. That name is going to be a string. It's going to have a price. That's going to be an integer. And it's going to have a description. And that is going to be a text, so a longer version of a string. I'm going to press enter. Then I'm going to see that a few files were created for me. Active record was invoked. That is in charge of making my models. So I am now seeing that in my DB file, DB folder /migrate / the time it was created, 2016, blah, blah, blah. I have create products.rb, and now I have a model page. We're not going to be worrying about the model because in this video we're talking about migrations. So let's go here to that migrations file, create products, and we can see here that we're using Ruby code here to create a table. This is awesome because in other languages we would have to know SQL or a database language to create tables and update our schema file, which I'll show you guys in a second. So as you can see here, I'm running create table, passing it a symbol of products. Notice that it's plural because the table name represents the plurality of your basically object that you're creating. It has, a string, an integer, and a text and description. Also note that timestamps are given to every model by default, okay? Now, one thing that we forgot to do is that we need to update our schema. So we created a migration file, and that's why it was in the DB migrate folder. And so now to update our schema is initially blank. Let me show you guys that actually. So if I go to my schema file, if I go to my database file, I can see that actually I have no migration file. A schema file has not been created for me yet. So let me run Rake DB migrate, and I can see that now create products was ran and my table products was created. So now if I go back into Vim, I can see now I have a db/schema.rb folder. And so this file was auto-generated when I ran db migrate. So I can see in the schema folder that I now have a table of products, and these are all its fields. So it gave me timestamps of created at and update at, as long as the 3 fields that I wanted. Now, something that's cool is that our database can change over time. For instance, we could add more models, or we could update that particular table. Let's say I wanted to create a migration where I added another field to the product, and that field was seller. So one way I could do this is I could generate a migration. I could do Rails G for generate, and then migration, not model. And then I could use the powerful syntax of Rails that automatically recognizes which table I'm adding it to. So the syntax for this is add, capital A, then your name, then the name of the field, seller, and you can put it in camel case so it's more than one word. You can do seller by, but I'm just going to do seller to products. So the syntax, I'll put a link to my website where I will show you all the code I'm writing for this video on www.applejuicescholars.com. But I can say add seller to products, and then I can do seller string. And so what this will do, it's pretty cool, is create a migration file for me in db/migrate. And let's go look at this for a second. So now in my migration file, instead of creating a table, we are just adding a column. So we are adding a column to the products table. It's going to be called seller, and it's going to be called string. Now if I go into my schema file, I don't have that seller field right now because I haven't ran Rake DB migrate. So I run Rake DB migrate. I then catch up to all my migrations, and you can see add column was ran. And if I go back to my Rails folder and load my schema, I can now see that I have my string seller right there. So that's pretty cool. I was able to add a field. And note the syntax I did, where basically it's add, then whatever field name you want. So add XXX, and then to camel cased, and then the name of your table, products, and then you actually name the field. And that way it will fill out that method for you, because it knew it needed to add a column and it needed to add it to the products. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over how to go backwards. So another thing you can do is that we have now migrated twice. Well, what if we wanted to go back to having no schema, or if we wanted to just roll back to get rid of that column? Well, one thing we could do is we could do rake db rollback. And so instead of moving us forward, it will take us back. So instead of adding the column, it actually called remove column. So now if I go into my schema, I can see that, oh hey, my schema is now back to where it first started, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's how you can go forward and go back. Another thing you can do is you can roll back to a specific version. So if I want to roll back to version 0, for instance, I could do rake db rollback version 0. Then it will simply, now I've rolled back to the first initial version of my rake task, which was when I had no table, no schema. Obviously, it was the beginning of my project. That's version 0. So it even dropped the table. So now if I go to Vim again and I open up my schema, try to open up my schema folder, you guys can't see the bottom here. My schema is not there. Schema.rb was deleted from me because I have nothing to do. So now if I run rake db migrate, all of my migrations are run not in steps. If I just run rake db migrate, so my table was created and then add column was created. Migrations are run in the order they were created, so they won't get out of order. My table will always be created, and then my columns will also be created. That's why the timestamp is a part of each file, so you can tell which timestamp is greater if you really want to look through it. Another thing you can do to see which migrations you've run is do rake db migrate :status. So db :migrate status, and then it will show you what database you're using. I'm using SQLite, and it will also show you your migrations and if they're up or down. So if they're up, it means they're running currently updated on your schema.rb file. If they're down, it means they're not loading. So as always, if you want to know more rake tasks you can run, you can always do rake t /t, and you can get all the rake commands with comments of what they do. So you can do rake db reset to totally reset your database and start it at 0, or look at your schema simply, or how to run rake tests, which I'll cover in another video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out my website, where I'll have an actual written description of all the commands I write and what they do, and also some nice links to more reading if you need them. It's www.applejuicescholars.com. Everyone have a great day. Let me know in the comments below what you liked about this video, and if there's anything I can do to improve. I do read your comments, and I do love you guys. Also give this video a like. It helps all the YouTube gods. See ya.